What's the vibe around there with the Coyotes? Is it like, are people really sad? Was it expected? Was it like, you know, just nice to have closure?
No, it's sad. It's a sad time, and a lot of unknowns right now.
Yeah,
Obviously, you know, you have an NHL team here for since '98 or wherever they came here, and you're able to grow the game and use the Coyotes as um, you know, a source in regards to what you're trying to accomplish as a hockey player. You get to look up to the NHL stars and people that you can look up to and try to emulate, and like the Austin Matthewses of the world. And so you have those things that you're trying to get done. And now that it's not here, how does that going to affect it? So. The way that was going, it wasn't going to be sustainable either. To be honest with you, I thought the move to Tempe was not a bad one in regards to if that's where you were going to build your rink. You were already showing your fan base exactly what it was going to look like, so you're kind of preparing them for that. That makes a lot of sense, but the accessibility to tickets was impossible. And yeah, well, just because it's a smaller venue, they're trying to extrapolate as much as they could for revenue, which is what you're trying to accomplish if you're an owner. But the accessibility to young kids. When you have a 17,000 seat arena, you have an upper bowl that's, $15, $20, $25 tickets. You can bring two young kids and have them fall in love. We all know that as much as the game has gotten a lot better with HD and watching it on TV, there's nothing better than hockey watched live. So having them kind of go and watch live is where you really fall in love with the game. And even at the Tempe for another 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years wasn't sustainable. And I don't think it would have helped the area with growth of hockey anyway. So leaving is hurts, but I hope it comes back here very soon.
it's interesting, man. We did a study a bunch of years ago, and it was on like international hockey and some countries that how they've had to build up their system. So we looked at Latvia, Switzerland, and we kind of compared their rankings from '94 to the Olympics in 2014 in Sochi. And it's like it takes 20 years to sort of build a pipeline, and that's pretty much almost dead on with what happened here. And it sucks because it just seems like right now it's not just good, it's great from a talent development standpoint. But it takes even Nashville seems like it's just from a grassroots level getting there.
You're not wrong, and to be honest with you, Nashville's starting to pick up, and I think it's truly with this new ownership group and what this group has done in the last 10, 12, 15 years of building more rinks. You need accessibility to the for people to play. Like, we're capped out here. We don't have enough sheets of ice for growth. We're capped out, and to be honest with you, I just don't think there's enough people that would want to invest in regards to how expensive it is to build, especially, with inflation right now. Trying to build a hockey rink would be, incredibly expensive. And I just don't think, and the only people that should be building it would probably be the owner of the NHL team, because he has he's invested in the growth of that, and he's going to be able to reap the benefits of that going further. And it's generational. He probably has kids, or he's going to sell it all when he's done. So he's got reasons to build, but, we were done. Like, we need more ice here for Phoenix to grow anymore. I think we're capped out in regards to growth. High school hockey's grown so much too. And, people that are playing high school hockey, it's amazing, but, they're practicing at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, or at, 10 o'clock at night. And that's fighting against men's league, who's trying to get those times. So the game is, we don't have enough ice here anymore. So if and when it comes back, I hope ownership group decides that that's going to be an important thing. Is the growth is going to have to come with more sheets of ice, not just the NHL sheet.
Talk to me about growing up in Timmins.
Great town to grow up in. I just small town, just a lot of winter. So if you got a lot of winter, it goes a long time. So, like, we got, you have your snowsuit on before Halloween. So it's you're on the pond, you're on the road playing street hockey with some snow on it very, very early. There was a ton of outdoor rinks when I was growing up. The city probably put up 8, 9, 10 outdoor rinks. I think every school, so many schools, elementary schools, put up rinks on their property. So like when I was going to school, you brought your stick. Like I'd stick handle the school in the morning. I probably had about a 10, 12 minute walk. I'd stick handle the school. You get there, there was no nets, but you'd have snow banks as nets. We did have a rink in the back of the school, but obviously the older kids got access to that. So when I was in grade 3, 4, and 5, maybe grade 5, I got to play with the older ones. But grade 3 and 4, you just played beside it, bunch of boys, and like when the bell went, we all just walked towards the school, and there was a couple garbage cans. You just threw your stick out, and it just stayed there. You took your boots off, you went in, recess. You get 15-minute recess twice a day. You go out, grab your stick, you go play hockey. It was, after school, you go home, pretend you did your homework, tell your parents you did your homework. But I'd have my skates on. I had an older brother who obviously, was passionate about the game, and I was able to, leech off of him a little bit. So we put our skates on and go to the outdoor rink. As soon as school was over, the roads were frozen, right? So as long as you stayed where the sand or the salt wasn't, you could just skate to the rink on the side of the road,
That's
jump on
unbelievable.
the outdoor rink and play, and then come home. And we lived in a little duplex, and I wouldn't even take my skates off. You put your skate guards on, you'd walk up to the stairs, sit at the table, eat dinner, and then my brother and I would go right back out till 8, 9 o'clock, whatever time the bedtime was, and come back home. So I was access to ice, access to to free time like that was huge for me. Growing up there, it was amazing. And like I said, it was long. So those you played right into February, March. I think that we didn't start golfing until probably long weekend in May is when the snow probably left, end of May, beginning of June. So I mean, besides that,
Wow.
you played a ton of hockey. So like, you talk about reps. I got a ton of free reps that had nothing to do with a coach with me, right? It was just me and figuring it out on my own. So as much as we tell the kids today, go into the garage and go shoot, or go in the backyard and shoot, and you're just shooting into nothing, I was actually felt like you were learning something without having to learn. It wasn't felt like it was forced. You're going out with all your buddies. Everybody played hockey. So we were always together. So you didn't realize that the work you were putting in and the reps you were getting, because of it was fun. It wasn't just go do this. Dad saying shoot more pucks, like you were just doing it because you loved it and everybody else did it. So blessed that I was able to grow up there.
So, I think a lot of people would look back on your career and say that you were a really skilled player. But I think in particular, people would say that you were a very competitive player. When you talk about being in an environment where, you're probably that kid in grade 1 that wants to go and play with the grade 3 and 4s, like, is that maybe where those seeds get planted, is just trying to get your elbows up and get in the game?
Yeah, without a doubt. And to be honest with you, like I said, I had an older brother. I was the benefit of that. He
Yeah.
was, I'm a 74, he's a 70. So we're 3.5 years apart, almost 4 years, probably 4 school grades apart. I followed him. When he went and played with his buddies, I would follow. And he'd be like, sit in a snowbank and wait for your turn. And you'd wait. And then you'd get out there and get it when you got a chance. You'd jump on the ice and go play. And then my dad coached him, probably, peewees and bantams. And guess what? I went to almost every practice with them just because I was, luckily I could skate. So I wasn't like, falling down. I could keep up with most of the drills, but I benefited from playing with older kids that pushed me, and I didn't want to embarrass my dad or my brother. And so it forced me to make sure that I was giving it everything I had, but I benefited from skating with older kids and getting pushed at an early age. And so that, every time you get an inch, you want a foot. So
Yeah.
of course, every time you want to continue to have that opportunity. So yeah, I definitely had that competitive edge from an early age.
Do you think, like, we're looking back on it now, and I mean, kids today get on the ice probably as much as you did. There's just a price tag associated with every time that they do, and there's, it's probably very structured. There's coaches around. If you grew up in Timmins today, do you think that environment still provides you the opportunity to reach the level that you did? Or do you think that we're maybe sort of caught in this area where there may have been a lot of pressure for you to go to, you know, the privatized camps, academies, etc.?
Yeah, I think we're caught in that area.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're right. Every kid is on the ice. We're on the ice, probably 5 times a week if we don't travel during the week. And um, but there's always a coach. There's always a coach. There's always a practice plan. And listen, I think there's some huge benefits to that. But I think that I benefited a lot from unstructured, not having somebody in my ear. Like, I mean, like, and I don't know how it is across the rest of the country, but ice here isn't cheap. We're looking at the $400 an hour. So if we're going on the ice, we want to make sure we accomplish as much as we can, so that the kids are benefiting from the price tag. So we're not trying to allow a lot of free time, and a lot of the reps that we're asking the kids is like, let's go. So you're not allowing that freedom in regards to like, hey, it's okay to make mistakes, or drills that you're just going to allow to failure. You're trying to accomplish something. So I do think that there is a little bit of a price tag there that we're paying in regards to not having that unstructured hockey. And you're right. I just feel like now that the world is so much smaller with all of the coaching that we're getting, and which is amazing. But I feel like everyone's chasing, right? Everyone's chasing the next camp. Everybody's chasing the next fad in regards to how are you teaching it. And I'm going to go do a week camp because I'm going to get better at stick handling. If you truly believe that, then you're going to have an issue with me, because I feel like your coach was with you for 7 months. Like, I'm pretty sure he's taught you way more in 7 months that you're going to get in that week with him. Now, will you learn a tidbit? Will you get, a little bit of a skill set? But at the end of the day, like, let's not think that you're just going to get that during that 1 week. You have to get curious. You have to be able to kind of try to figure it out on your own, and you have to obsess about it, so that you are on your own figuring it out. That's what I love about it, is can these kids, we just picked our team for next year. Now they have all summer that I'm not really going to be with them. So I ended up implementing a couple of mandatory testing days just to see, where they're at. So now they know that there's a date coming that they're going to have to be in shape, and that they're going to just not because I think that's super, super important. I just don't want you to be behind when we start in August, because the train starts moving. And if you're not in shape, well, it's not my job as a coach is to get you in shape. My job is to try to teach you to get to the next level. So if you're not taking care of yourself, so you implement a couple of these workout things, but I hope, and I tell them, what's your home routine? What's your daily routine at home? How many pucks are you shooting? How often are you playing with a golf ball and a stick in the garage? Are you taking 15 minutes a day? I'm not asking you to spend the whole day doing it, but I mean, you play video games. In between video games, in between loading up, just grab your stick and stick handle and look at the screen. Or when you're playing Call of Duty and you die, grab your stick and do so. Like, just keep talking to your buddies on your headphones. But are you obsessed enough to be able to want to do that? So I think that's where we're kind of getting lost in the specialization of the sport. I just don't think it's as homegrown as it could be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think at the end of the day, like, that's sort of the litmus test, is just our kids, and you can't teach that, you can't buy it, but our kids going to be motivated just to solve that Rubik's cube, figure it out, and kind of make that thing come to life of that they might be envisioning in their head. And I bring up the Timmins thing because it's I knew that Timmins was in Northern Ontario. And so, of course, you go on, Google Maps, and you see it, and it's there, and you see the little outline of town, and you zoom out, and there's nothing else around, and you zoom out again, and there's nothing, and again, there's nothing, until finally you see like Sault Ste. Marie, and beyond that, Thunder Bay, and I'm like, man, like, there's nothing around that. But I remember coaching junior hockey, and you'd go on these scouting trips to the prairies, and as you drive into every little town, you see the sign that says "Home of." NHL player. And I'm thinking, man, like, just from the heritage of our game, like, I hope we never lose that. Our kids, never grow up in these small towns, or maybe they don't have access to everything and feel like, gosh, because I don't live in Saskatoon or Phoenix or Vancouver, maybe I'm not going to be able to, even despite putting the work in, I still might not be able to realize, the goal that I have. But I also understand that's probably a bigger problem than we're capable of solving today. But I did read. So I mean, you grow up in Timmins. The Sault Ste. Marie or the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, effectively are a dynasty, and they're still one of the, have such a rich tradition. My understanding is you get invited when you're 16 years old to go to camp. At that time, there was the 48-hour rule, meaning that if you wanted to keep your NCAA eligibility, you had 48 hours to be in camp, and you had to make a decision whether you were going to sign or move on. I read that Sherry Basson, who is a legend in junior hockey circles. I mean, he put the Erie Otters together when Connor McDavid was there. He was the GM of Sault Ste. Marie at the time. My understanding is you go up there for camp, tear it up. He calls you, your mom, and your dad into his office, sits you down on the couch, and the first words out of his mouth are, "What are you doing here? We don't need a jockey." Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's hilarious. That was my first year, and he's just kind of like, so yeah, exactly. So 48 hours. We had 2 ice sessions a day, 4 games, and I thought I did really, really well. And when he called me in and brought my parents in, and the first time for the first year, he wanted me to play exhibition games. And I just, my dad was there, and he's like, we can't do it. We can't do exhibition games. We're just starting to get some traction with some NCAA schools. And, so we can't lose that eligibility. We can't lose that path. So he can't play. And Sherry's like, well, I really think that, if you play, there's a good chance, but we've got a couple first round picks. And so, we just need to see you play against other kids and other teams. And we didn't do it. We went home, went back. And then as the story continues, it was the next year when I came back, he invited me again. So I wasn't drafted. I was
Really?
no, I wasn't. I was invited, and then even went back and I went back and played Tier 2 junior in Timmins. So my dad started up the Timmins Golden Bears.
Oh, I didn't realize he started that. No kidding.
Yeah, so
Wow.
my dad started it because my brother had left, 3 years before that. When my brother was 17, he left and tried to do the junior B route, went and played for the Peterborough Peach Junior B team.
Yeah.
And then he got homesick and came home, and my dad was looking at me and saying, like, I don't want him to get homesick. Why do we have to leave so young? So he started a junior team. So I ended up being on that inaugural team as a 17-year-old, played junior at home, and then put up some pretty good numbers. And then, so the Sioux invited me back, and then same thing, 48 hours again. This time here, Sherry brought us back into the office, and then, made that joke about it, but then offered me a full schoolboy package at the time, which was full books, tuition, room and board, for a walk on, which was unheard of at the time. So, it was. I'm indebted to him. Like he never gave up on me. He's the one that gave me that first opportunity. And you're right. My 2 years in the Sioux are. I still think about them. We just finished moving into a new home, and I finally put all my stuff into frames that I thought was and I've got 6 NHL jerseys up on the wall. I've got a Hockey Canada jersey when I went and played at the World Championships, and definitely got my Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds jersey up on the wall because that's it's a part of my path that I'm fond of.
I bet, and it's on the bucket list. It's obviously a little tougher to get to, but we work really closely with the Ontario Minor Hockey Association. Their executive director, Ian Taylor, has become a really good friend, and his son Brennan is an assistant coach there now, and he was in Mississauga previously. And Ian makes a couple of trips up there per year, and he just says, Aaron, he's like, you don't understand. He's like, it's not even just walking to the rink. It's waking up the morning of, like, on a game day, going through town. There's the red jerseys, the coffee shops buzzing. He goes, it's right out of a movie. And he's like, the team and the players and the staff get treated so well. What I didn't realize, though, was I knew that you guys won the Memorial Cup that first year. I didn't realize that that was their third consecutive trip to the Memorial
Yeah.
Cup, all under Ted Nolan.
Yeah.
Talk to me about playing under Ted Nolan.
Yeah. What an experience. Uh, so you grow up and it's youth hockey, right? It's youth hockey your whole time going up, and
Yeah.
back then it's a little bit different than it is today. I think youth hockey now, with a lot of coaches and a lot of experience in sites like your own, and have gotten a lot better. But I mean, for me, and no disrespect, I think I learned a lot from the people that helped me along the way, but it's a completely different animal than it is now. You're just going to play, and you got your drills, and not a lot of systems. You don't really know. You're learning the game a little bit, but getting to the Sioux and being with Teddy and Danny Flynn was our assistant coach too,
Yeah.
who's
And John
got a
Beckman.
pretty, yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
so when I get there, it was and then obviously I had my father as a 17-year-old coaching junior, but then again, even talking to my dad now, it's like, what his knowledge of the game was versus, what I was able to get past that. Teddy was unbelievable. Like, just what a motivator. Like, he had a way of making you buy into what was going to happen. He prepared you in regards to, like, we were going to war. Like, I wouldn't sit here and say that he was the best X's and O's person, not knowing that as an 18, 19 year old. But afterwards, but we'd all line up to go through the Zamboni door for him if he was on the other side. Like, he just he respected us, and he protected us in regards to, like, you just knew what his passion level was and what he was trying to accomplish. And he pushed us hard, but you knew why he was doing it. It was amazing for me to have him as a coach for the first couple of years, to understand, like, here's how hard it's going to be, but here's how hard we're going to go. But I'm going to make it fun, and we're and you're going to enjoy and reap the benefits at the end of the year. So I loved him as a coach.
Do you recall, and I think, anybody that's coached or played junior hockey, we can all recognize that there's a hierarchy. And I look at your stats from that year. You come in as a rookie, you're one of the top scorers. It's one thing to have the skill set to perform on the ice, but then there's this other aspect where you're coming in as a rookie, as a teenager, and we all look back at ourselves at that point in our life, and the difference between 17 and 20 is immense. You're boys playing with men, and we also know that all of a sudden, like, it's great to come in and play well, but in a lot of environments, that's not always viewed favorably by maybe some of the older players. Like, do you remember, like, what do you think enabled you to come in there and what would seem to be, establish yourself very quickly as a go-to player? Because that seemed to serve you for the duration of your career.
Yeah, I'll get to that. But, like, to be honest with you, I was a fourth line guy.
Really?
Oh yeah,
You're like
yeah.
a point of game fourth line guy.
Point of game fourth line guy. So whenever there was injuries, whenever there was, if we were struggling a little bit, if Teddy was going to kind of shake things up, he needed something, I would get booted up to the first or second line for a little bit. But I was, you go back and look, even in the Memorial Cup, I scored a goal in the championship game in the Memorial Cup, but I don't think I got 10 shifts in that game. I was a fourth line guy, so I played on the top two lines. Jarrett Reed was one of our top centermen. He got injured. I played when he was injured. I played up, and then Ralphie Intranuvo went to the World Juniors, so he left early December. Didn't come back till January. So I played in his spot for almost a month there too. So whenever I got those opportunities, I think I took advantage of them. But at the end of the day, I was an 18-year-old rookie who played on the fourth line pretty consistently, and that's and had to figure it out. Did I like it? No. And I think my a little bit of my stubbornness in regards to, like, in my ability of myself to say I can do this, and I want to do this. So that's what kind of keeps me going. But yeah, so for that first year, I was more of a fourth line center for them that just got spotted in here and there.
Well, you know what? I just think there's so much, and I'm fascinated because you and I are about the same age, and I certainly didn't have anywhere close to the career you did, but I can remember getting traded in junior hockey without a phone, and like I didn't know where I was going. Like I had to literally walk down to a bus depot. Like we didn't have phones, so so I look at your case here. So you go from small town Timmins, Ontario, you go to Sault Ste. Marie, which was probably felt like a big city. You're a ninth round pick of the New Jersey Devils. So now you're going to New York City and playing in, I think it was Albany
Yeah.
in the American League. And I'm like, man, like your eyes must have been as big as saucers. And I think that, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but I think being a parent, sometimes you realize like when your kids are like there's an emotional side of this whole journey. And then that's where, some kids fall off because they don't pass the puck well enough, but a lot of kids fall off because their eyes are as big as saucers and it's, they're maybe not prepared for that end of it. Do you recall what it was like going through that whole experience and getting acclimated? And
Yeah, it was yeah, it was an eye opener. And like and to be quite honest with you, like I I didn't have I had very little experience. Like I had very little experience in regards to like um of playing any type of high level hockey before major junior, which was 6 hours from home. But I think I played. You play 33 home games a year, so I played 66 home games in the Sioux regular seasons. I think my dad saw 60 games. I think my dad and my
really,
brother would drive. Yeah, my dad and brother would drive down, watch the game, and drive back. Right, like it was like to them,
wow,
they were watching me. So I had still had a lot of support from family, and so didn't feel like in the Sioux is a little bit bigger than Timmins, but it's not like as if I was in Oshawa or if I was in
sure.
London, Ontario. It still kind of has a little bit of a small town feel to it. So I was lucky there, but yeah, you're right. So then when I get dropped into the middle of New York or New Jersey, right down the street. Yeah, it was, and I just didn't know. Like I'd never been to like a Hockey Canada camp. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know, back then, the hockey news is all we had. Like you said, you had no cell phone. Like, so
Yeah, yeah.
you
Never
didn't
thought
have the
hockey was
internet. You
there.
didn't,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Yeah. You'd watch the hockey news to see, like who was doing what. That was your hockey knowledge. Or you listen to, sports radio, but so knowing other kids, who was drafted where and who was the first round pick, and I had no clue. I not like today where you follow on the internet or you're going to see it on TV. No idea. So I think being a little naive that in that way probably also helped me a little bit in regards to, the moment was big. But I didn't know who was who. I didn't know who our first round draft pick was. I didn't know who, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, being the same age, you remember Christoph Oliwa? You remember the big tough guy,
oh
Christoph
yeah, yeah,
Oliwa?
yeah,
Yeah, big fighter.
yeah.
Like he was the first guy I saw on the ice. I went and got, I got the training camp. Went and got my gear. I went and got my gear. My t-shirt and shorts and stuff. My bag, my laundry bag. I put my stuff on. I wasn't going on the ice for a couple hours, so I went out to watch. And he's the first guy I saw come down the ice. And 6'5", skated like the wind, fired a puck. I don't know. I don't remember the goal he was, but top shelf. And he skated right behind. I was right behind the net. And he skated behind the net. And I looked up at him and I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, right? This like is this? I don't look like that out there, right? So, but then you get on the ice and then you figure out that like he's not even going to make the team. And he was out with me in Albany, and he was a fourth line guy. And you don't realize like in drills is different than in the game. Once the puck drops and you start kind of playing the game and feel it, I felt at home. I never felt like I was out of place once I was on the ice and the puck dropped. It came natural. So that's where I felt the most comfortable. So everything else that was off the ice, you kept to yourself. I didn't, like I said, I didn't really know anybody. I didn't go to the draft. I was at a Canadian Tire getting a lawnmower when I got drafted. My dad, so we're not very good with tools, so we needed a new lawnmower. So my brother and I went to Canadian Tire to get a lawnmower, and we were asking them like, we'll buy it, but you guys got to put it together. So the guys were putting it back together. My brother and I were screwing around in the store. And then finally, my dad was working for Molson's. So finally when we got back to the car, he had one of those, the first car phones, the ones that were like on a stand. Yeah. So he called it, And there's like, so my brother answered it and he's like, you better get home. New Jersey just called you. You were drafted. I didn't even realize it was draft day. To be quite honest with you, didn't even remember that, it was the NHL draft that day. So I got home and got a phone call from Jersey. And then so that's how kind of a little naive I was with the whole scheme of things. So I think that might have helped. It might have helped that, I didn't get overwhelmed by the moment and didn't know a lot of the guys. So I kept to myself, kept quiet, and, just kind of went about my business.
Well, I think it was just yesterday on 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman's podcast. They were talking about that there's been some discussions, at the NHL draft about reducing it to 4 rounds because the odds of a player drafted beyond that signing a contract, let alone ever playing one game, is so slim to none. You go in as a undersized 9th round pick, and frankly, an arrow like. There must be times when you're like, man, if I had been born 20 years later, watch out. But you go back to, you mentioned a stubbornness, out of all the things, all the ingredients it takes to have, to play 1,000 games in the National Hockey League, where does stubbornness rank in terms of how it might have led to your success?
Yeah, probably pretty high. I mean, it probably hurt me too, sometimes, if more than once. But, I think if you're not, if you don't have that self-belief, if you don't, take no for an answer, kind of just, I don't know if you're able to kind of get through there's going to be so many hard days. There's going to be so much rejection throughout the times there. It's not going to be an even climb to get there. You're going to have to be able to kind of have some stubbornness to yourself, and believe, the information you're giving, like the information that was given to me was probably the right stuff, but I was probably just too stubborn to say, I don't agree with you. I don't believe you, and I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably, it kind of just, the stubbornness, competitiveness kind of comes in 1-to-1 for me. So I feel like it has to rank up there very, very high.
You go to Albany, play under Robbie Ftorek, win a Calder Cup championship. You're on a bit of a heater now. 2 rings, but then you go to Jersey and Jacques Lemaire is your coach, and that you got a dressing room full of future Hall of Famers. But Jacques in particular seemed to be ahead of his time. What do you recall about playing for him, and what might have you learned early on under his tenure?
A savant of the game. Like I think I might have played 40, 50 games under Jacques, a couple of training camps, some healthy scratches in there too. But first of all, the first time I get called up, after pregame skate, he calls me in. It was like a very informal pregame skate. I don't know if it was a back-to-back for them. But not everybody was on the ice. So we weren't doing line rushes. We weren't doing some sort of that. So when I came off the ice, he's like, hey, come to my office. He came in my office. He's like, hey, just going to let you know that you're going to play left wing tonight. And I looked at him and I was like, well, Mr. Lemaire, I said, I play center and I shoot right. He's like, oh, I know, but you're going to play left wing. I'm like, I don't think I can. He's like, well, He's like, you don't want to, or you don't think you can? Because if you don't want to, then we have an issue. If you don't think you can, I'm here to help you. So, and right from the get-go, he just recognized that my game as a centerman wasn't going to translate to the next level.
Yeah.
And he wanted to expose my speed. The way he played within his system was me coming across the ice and using my asset to try to get away from the wall, get back into the middle of the ice, but not having the responsibility to play down low. And to be quite honest with you, I played left wing, lucky enough to play 1,000 games. I might've played 80 or 90 at center out of a necessity for injuries with teams. But besides that, I never went back. I never went back to center. So, my favorite thing is, it was our second game. So the first game was a blur, and he didn't talk to me very much during the game. I think he just understood that I was in the moment and just let it go. And I probably wasn't going to be able to kind of take in anything that he was going to give me anyways. You're so nervous, and
Yeah.
you just want to keep it very simple. But I remember in game two, coming to the bench and him kind of putting his arm around me and explaining what happened in the shift and what I had done and what I need to be looking for as the play was still going on. Like it was, the game was still playing. It wasn't a whistle. The game was still being played. And I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Good. Thank you very much. And I moved and I watched him grab the next guy and do the same thing. And in my head, I was like, how did you see that? Like, how did you see what he was doing when you were explaining to me what I had to do from the
No
shift
way.
before? Yeah. Like,
Wow.
so I just truly believe, that he just saw the game. I don't think he was, as a hockey player, he was a little bit more defensive minded. Obviously one of the best two-way players to ever play. And so he probably wasn't as talented as Wayne Gretzky, but I truly believe that the game was probably the same speed for Jacques Lemaire that it was for Wayne. Like, I just don't think, I think the game, he was able to slow the game down and understood it and was able to kind of understand what was coming next before a lot of other people. I truly believe he saw 2-3 plays ahead of what was going on. So it was a treat. But he was super quiet. He didn't talk to his players a lot. There wasn't a lot of, to be honest with you, I was still staying in a hotel across the street from our practice facility when I got traded to Toronto. And he came and Robbie Ftorek was my assistant coach. Obviously I had him in the minors for the year. So Robbie, I come over and saw me earlier in the morning, and then we weren't flying out till like 4:00. And then I got a knock at the door like at 2:00, and I opened the door and it was Jacques.
No
And he was
way.
just, Jacques came in, and I was packed up. Everything was packed. I was just waiting to get picked up, and he's, small little chit chat and told me a few little, tidbits of my game and where I was really good, what I needed to work on, and told me I was going to be a successful player and that, like this was a good thing for me, blah, blah. And, that I was like, he left. I ended up calling my dad. I'm like, Jacques likes me. Like you had no idea if he liked you or didn't like you. He was just the coach. Right. So, and didn't have a lot of communication with me. So it was great that, I'm fond of the short time I was with him.
That's pretty cool. I know one of my partners in the coaches site, Ben Cooper. He's been an assistant with the Canucks, Florida. He's over in Salzburg now, but he was the video coach in 2010 on the Olympic team. And we did this thing with Mike Babcock last year at our conference. And so he's talking about his staff. And in the slide deck, Ben had inserted this picture because, he would say like Jacques, he's like, he didn't feel like he needed to prepare for hours on end. It was just like, let's talk, keep it simple. So he's like, oftentimes he would just like, there'd be a staff meeting and he would just leave. And he has this picture and it's like a nice sunny day at the Olympic Village. And there's Jacques on a reclining chair on the rooftop, smoking a cigar. The sun's coming down. And he's like, that's where, if he was missing, that's where you'd be. So obviously a really cool experience, but again, that's, you kind of come into the NHL right in an era where, clutching and grabbing, the obstruction. I mean, it seemed like every team would have had 6 mutants on defense. The play, I mean, you go back and watch the play in front of the net. It's so violent. How did you have to adapt your game to be successful? And was that something you were mindful of in terms of just saying like, hey, if this is gonna turn into a career, I might have to, find my way around a little bit differently than maybe I did in junior or the American League?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was ever a thought process, but I don't think it was. I think I just played the way I played. And you don't when you grow up in it. Now that we see how the game's played now, yeah, do we wish it could have been played like that forever? For sure. But I don't think I ever had really thought about it. I didn't think it was. You don't know any different, right? So the only thing I can tell you is like I understood at an early age what you needed to do to score goals, and I understood early on where most of the goals went in from. So for me, I I really loved to score. That was like, I wanted to, every time I stepped on the ice, every shift, I want to score. Like that was, that was the driving force. And so if you figure out where the goals go in and where do you have to go to score them. So, and like you said at the beginning, I don't think, I know I wasn't the most skilled. It's not, you watch the kids today and the skill, when you're like, hey, would you rather play in today? Would you rather play in today's game? I don't know. I don't know if I had this. I don't think I have the skill set that these guys have. Like the way they handle pucks and they do Michigans and the way they, like, I did not have, I was a very straightforward puck in front of me. I wasn't beating too many people one-on-one. So, just trying to beat them wide with speed. But you understand where you have to go to score goals. So, the only time I'd be very conscious of it is if I hadn't scored in a while. You start looking back and you visualize, like, how many times have I been, in that little area, they call the house now, and they call this, the small slot. Like for me, it would be like, how many times did you go through there, in the last 3 or 4 games? Have you been through there? Like, are you going there yet? Like, so, and then it just becomes a timing thing. Right. And I think that, if you're blessed with a little bit of hockey IQ, you can kind of see what's coming. And for me, it was a timing thing. It was, right. I'm not going around there to stand so that, Adam Foote can just decide that he's just going to cross check me and, and face plant me. I'm not doing that. So, for me, it's, is this puck coming straight to the net or is it going D to D? If it's going D to D, then I'm going to change my route to a little higher so that when it gets D to D, now I'm there at the right time. So it was just more of a timing thing in regards to like trying to figure out, when is the puck going there? I'm going to be there when the puck's there. I'm not standing there if the puck's not there.
Yeah. That's well, and so part of the reason I bring that up is, the reason we're talking is, back at Christmas, my wife has family in Calgary. We make the trip out there. The Max tournament is going on. So I arrange on one day, I'm going to go to the rink, hang out, see some pals. And one of the games I end up watching, it's your team, the Arizona Junior Coyotes. And you were playing the rink, Jerome McGinley's team. I think it was the first game of the tournament right after Boxing Day. And I'm just watching the game and I'm like, man, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to your players, but I'm watching your team play and I'm like, the whole was greater than the sum of its parts. There wasn't any weak links. Didn't seem to be any superstars, but every kid could skate. But more than anything, I mean, that's when you mentioned the timing, like there just seemed to be an overall maturity to your team's game, to their structure, how they protected pucks, how efficient they were. And I was like, man, like this is a really, like this team just looks different at this level. And so I texted Brian Suglocki, who's, we've worked with and does some work with the Coyotes as a skills coach. He works with Austin Matthews. And I said, hey, I'm like, who coaches this Arizona team? I'm like, they're really good. And so he mentioned your name. And so I just find it's interesting. I mean, do you draw any parallels of maybe like when you talk about those timing and some of those nuances part of the game that, I mean, nobody signs their kid up for the timing hockey school. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. I think you're either blessed to figure it out on your own, or hopefully you get a coach that can kind of steer a kid in the direction and point it out. But how much of those little details are things that you might stress today with your team?
Tons, right? I truly believe like there's got to be room for all of it. Like there's got to be the PEP system type of skill sets that are done. You look at how we, just to give you a quick rundown, on Mondays, that's what our kids do. Like our kids, I don't go on the ice. We have a skills coach and a power skating coach. He goes on the ice on Mondays and does, they do half an hour skills, half an hour power skating, and it's through cones. It's, change of angles on shots. It's all the stuff that you would do that you would actually consider skills. But on Tuesday, we go back in and we call it development day. And it's usually a split between forwards and D. And then that's where we start doing, the skills inside of our systems. So you start working on routes. You start working on, here's how we play. Here's how we're going to have success in how we play. And here are the skills that you're needed to play here. So wall work becomes one, right? Getting off the wall, trying to fight for dots, So you start kind of just creating these routes and these reps, and you're able to teach them the why, right? Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it, right? So that within our system, we're going to go low to high. We're going to go D to D. You're going to be on the flank. Well, here, let's try to figure out, where's the lane going to be? And you're going to have to, this puck's going to come across and you're going to one time it. But now let's make sure that when you're kind of timing your skating, that you're putting yourself in a position that your weight is on the right, you're ready for it, right? And if it doesn't come to you, where is it going to go? So now you have to make a decision. Did it come to you? I'm ready to shoot it. If it goes to the net, I'm driving to the net with the puck. Probably, where is it going to come? Like, what are the chances? What are the odds? What are the percentages of where the puck's going to go if it goes off the goalie? So that's what we work on, a bunch of different scenarios in regards to our structure, so that I am pretty structured in regards to how we play, but try to create so many different variables and opportunities within that to be an individual player. So everybody, what I try to do is let's be predictable to ourselves so that we know as teammates where we're going to be on the ice, but let's be very unpredictable to the other team so that you have options within our structure to do certain things. You're coming from the puck's in the corner, stalled puck, you win the battle, you start to climb the wall. Here are three different options that I think that are most likely going to happen in the game, so that we all understand, if I'm away from the puck, what are your three options with it? I mean, are you under pressure? Do I need to be second quick because it looks like it's going to have to be? We're going to cycle it down low. Are you going to be able to cut the corner and get to the net? Well, then I'm going to drive the net and look for a high tip or look for a rebound. Or is it going low to high? Then, away from the puck, where should I be on the ice if this puck goes low to high? So a lot of the stuff that we do is on that day. Most of it is away from the puck, your decision making away from the puck. I want you to have the skills on Monday to understand what to do with it. But I truly believe that your decision making away from the puck is, who am I playing with? Does he win 50, 60, 70% of the battles? And then maybe I have to get a little closer. Does he win almost every single battle in the corner? Well, then maybe I don't have to go so close to him to be able, right? To be able to understand who you're playing with. So those are small little stuff that you can do inside of our practice plans, that on that day that we can kind of have those conversations with our, with our deep part, with our players, so that, they can continue to have some success.
Man, I love when you talk about the creativity aspect, because I think it's, sometimes I worry that gets lost in our game where, as you noted on those sort of Monday type practices, kids work on skills, they get creative, but, creativity is worthless if there's not some form of oneness within a team and there's somebody you can play catch with, so to speak. When you get into those Tuesdays and you're having those conversations, is that, maybe partly video? Is that putting the kids on a knee and just explaining things on the ice? Or is there a way that maybe, could you talk about reps and the value that you had as a young player and just getting your reps in? Is there a way that can be done in sort of a fluid way where there's coaching, but also movement and action happening at the same time?
Yeah.
It's $500 an hour for ice.
Well, that's it. But the lucky thing about it, and the reason why we have that, I use that hour, is that I believe that we're on the ice. So that's the Tuesday. We'll have like an hour and 15. We have Wednesday, Thursday ice, and then a Saturday session. So I still have 3 other days. We're still going to work on some skills, but that's where we're really going to button down on our structure so that we understand exactly how we play. But Tuesdays there's not a lot of flow to it. You're not getting a huge sweat when you're on the ice that day. We're trying to learn those routes, those skills. I'm not worried, and to be honest with you, because I think our practices are very hard. When we do the rep, it's a little bit of a longer rep, and you're exerting yourself. And I'm expecting 5 or 6 reps per drill that we're going to do, or per side that we're going to do. I don't like to do conditioning skates, but I'm not so worried about the flow of practice, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. I think that a lot of coaches get lost in regards to, like, man, that was a great practice. Okay, but what did they learn? Like, sure, they got cardio out of it, and you didn't want to stop practice because you get tired of blowing the whistles. But I feel like at this age, they need to learn, what's going on. And the benefit I also have is I usually have two assistant coaches, and probably for 60% of practice, probably the first 3 or 4 drills, they run the drill.
Yeah.
If it's not structure based, they run the drill. I can teach. I can spot coach. So I watch the reps. I can go into the corner after he's finished shooting and go like, "Hey, on that one there, what were you thinking? Now that you look at it, what were the other options?" So I can kind of not worry about running the drill itself. I can actually go and teach it, right? And then once we get into structure, I grab the whistle back, and then I can run those drills. But a lot of times, I'm not running the drill for that specific reason in regards to like, hey, if we're doing a regroup, hey, D-man, like, let's make sure that we're loading right. I mean, like, let's not minimize your stick handles, like just small little things. Cause you're right. Like, and we do a ton of video, Aaron, to be honest with you. I do a ton of video, and I, I think this is at the beginning, it's very uncomfortable for the kids. Because what I try to accomplish with my video is I'm doing a one-on-one video with you in front of everybody else. So when I cut the video, and we're going to be in the video room for 45 minutes, and we're going to go through a bunch of skill stuff that happened on the ice or decision making or whatever we're going through that's not structure based, I feel like every other kid needs to learn from that. And we just don't have enough time to go through every single kid every single week to go through all that video. So what I'm doing is I'm going to show the video, and I'm going to be like, hey, what did you, why this, why here? We're going to have like a one-on-one in front of everybody else. So they are also getting a rep. They're getting a free rep that they can just sit back in their chair. They're not very nervous because I didn't call on them, but they're able to learn from that, because I just feel like at that young of age, when videos starting to get introduced, they can learn so much from watching somebody else and getting the instruction that I'm giving this one person, a one-on-one about a zone entry or whatever it's going to be. They can learn from it for free. So I feel like I don't do a lot of one-on-one video. We do a ton of group video, because I feel like that's where at this age, once you start getting into junior and pro, they already know a lot of stuff. You're kind of correcting. Here, I'm still teaching. So I don't want to waste a one-on-one moment to teach one guy when I can actually be teaching 20. So we do a ton of video, minimum, as a whole group, minimum twice a week in regards to going upstairs before practice for 30 or 40 minutes. And I'm just pulling one specific thing that happened 8, 9, 10, 12 times in the game. And I usually try to try to pick different, players that have done that happen too. If it's a wall work thing, or if
Sure.
it's, below the goal line plays, like what were we thinking here? Why, away from the puck, why aren't you getting in a position where we can get this? What, where do you stop the video and say, where do you think this guy's going with the play right now? Why he's going to go behind the net? So why are we, well, okay, so you're right. I'm going to hit play, then watch yourself. And why do you stay where you stay? Right? So that, and you watch it, you rewind it. Now, what would you do? And then have the player go through it. So then it's a mental rep. So,
no, I just think like what you just said there, I just want to highlight it because I think it's really valuable, because I think so much of, so many video sessions are likely a one-way conversation. But I think as you frame it there, that, there's a question and saying, what do you think you're going to do? Or what do you think we should do? And creating a bit of a dialogue there. I think particularly with kids, that's a really valuable exercise. You started your coaching career, I believe, essentially as soon as you retired, as a development coach for the then Phoenix Coyotes. When you talk about these Thursdays and these methods of maybe breaking down, say, a system or tactic into these small parts and identifying the those little details, how much of that is maybe informed by, I would think that in that role, you're traveling to to watch a lot of kids play junior hockey, but you're probably watching a lot of practices, and you're probably seeing kids that are really talented. Maybe they're not getting the ice time they want because they don't understand the system, or maybe it's not that they don't understand the system. They just don't have they haven't been taught the skills within the system to execute it effectively, and how detrimental that can be. And do you think that maybe reinforces that? And when you're building kids up today?
Yeah, without a doubt. the benefit I had is you draft kids, and now you're going to watch them, and you're going to help them with their next couple years, their path to pro hockey. If they're playing junior, and you might have 3 years if they're in college, but you're going from team to team that play a different system. So it was imperative for me to understand how the team played. You'd never want to give information to a player, that would be contradicting his coach in the coaching style and in the system that they're trying to play. So yeah, you have to understand their system so that you can help them. But you're right. Like, if they don't, you tell the kids today, like, when you're being taught these systems, understand that you try to learn it like you're going to teach it. Like, you better know your systems well enough that you're going to teach it. Something that I wish I would have known as a younger player is paying attention to the system, understanding the system so well that you could teach it again, so that you're not thinking on the ice, you're not worried about it. Now we can work on those individual skills that are going to put you, have some success with you. But you're right. A lot of the times when I go watch the development stuff, you are still working on skills, but these kids are drafted. They're pretty elite already in regards to the skill set. So you are working more on development in regards to playing inside the systems. So for me, a lot of times, and even when I ended up, in management and going to watch players before we pick them, for me, it's routes. A lot of times, and what I focused on are routes. Like, where do you go, when you go, and why? Right. I'm looking at, that's most of the conversations we had a lot of times was that, right? Like, it's why are you going there when you went, right? Yeah. What was your thought process, and working on that. And, and then, but again, I think video is great now because you can show them and go back and be, okay, like, it's easy now. It's easy to look at it now and look at it. But now that let's watch it again so that you can say, okay, next time this happens, because if it's within a structured system, it's going to happen a lot. Like, if you're playing a certain system, you're probably going to be put in that position, probably the next game. So, what are you looking for next time? Shoulder check a little earlier, check to see, what are your checkpoints to say, am I staying wide? Am I going to cut through the middle? Am I holding on to the puck? Am I going deep with it? So any little decisions you're going to make, what are your checkpoints? What are your triggers in regards to when and why you leave? So let's make sure that we work on those.
So if I'm on your team, you're at, say, the whiteboard in practice, you mentioned checkpoints. Would that be an example of something that, as you're explaining a drill, could be any drill, but you might say, okay, here's the checkpoint? Or would you get that deal, say, hey, you need a shoulder check here, look for this specifically, and take them through that? Because I think it's so easy for coaches. The drill is just go around the pylon, turn left, shoot. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we forget that that's not how the game's played.
No,
you play
like
guys,
Yeah, no, like you try to mimic game-like situations. We try to mimic game-like situations a lot. The first couple drills, we're gonna warm up the goalies, and the drills that we're going to do are going to be helping with your skills. But anything after the first couple drills, everything that we do is game based. So so if we're doing that, we're going to implement a forced trigger for you to have to make a decision. If it's, you have to watch the coach's stick. Let's make sure. So we're going to watch it. Where's the coach's stick going to be? A lot of times, the kids laugh, but if I dump a puck in and the D-man's going back 4-1, he's got to turn around and he's got to look at me. I'm going to have a stick on or the right or left side of my body at center. I dump the puck in at center. I'm going to have my stick on the right or left side. You have to shoulder check, not just pretend shoulder check. You're going to have to figure out what side of my body my stick was. And when the rep's done, you're coming back to tell me what it was. Left side coach, right side coach, left side coach. So I'm forcing them not to just pretend like it's a shoulder check. You're actually, what are you looking for? Because in a game, right, you're trying to look past the 4 checkers on your hip. You already know that. But what's the next layer? What's the next layer look like? So that when you cut the corner, if you beat your guy, where are they coming from? So let's help you recognize that it's not just 2 feet behind you. You're looking back at center ice to say, that's the next layer coming after us. I know what I'm going to do when I turn the net. So, getting them some free reps like that, some of the small little triggers like that is an example that we would implement into all our drills so that they it's not just blow the whistle, you skate, catch a pass, go around a cone and shoot. Like there's going to have to be some sort of game-like situation where you're going to have to react or remember or look for something on the ice.
That's a great hack. And you mentioned wall work earlier, and it's funny in the time that we've been doing the show, I would say that every year there seems to be like these underlying themes that sort of bubble up in the game, where that coaches start, you hear them talking about it more and more frequently. And this year has definitely been the year of like wall work. Like everybody's into wall work. And then everybody references to the statistic that, 80% of the game is played within 6 feet of the wall. And somehow for whatever reason, we missed this maybe earlier in the game, or it just wasn't as applicable. But when you talk about whether it was in your player development role, you work your way up to eventually being the general manager of the Arizona Coyotes. When you're out there evaluating talent, at a level where it goes without saying the margins are so thin, like the difference between making it and not making it is finite. But what would be some other examples of skill sets or details that you would say, man, like if a player had to spend more time in this area, or if you could recommend to coaches to say that, hey, like here's maybe something you might be overlooking, but man, you're going to do your players a real service if you can help build this into their game.
Yeah, for me, I truly believe it's goal scoring, and yeah, I don't. I mean, to be honest with you, like you mentioned, our club, and that not, we weren't overly gifted skill set wise, but as a whole, we were a good team. And
Yeah.
I truly believe that the success we had is one, the buy-in from all the players, but we recognized really early on that we weren't going to beat Team 7-6,
Yeah.
and that we might not be as skilled as everybody else. So what we tried to do is create volume. So we were a volume team. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to outchance you 2-1. That gave us a chance to win. So how do you do that? Well, then you have to put yourself in positions to be goal scorers. So a lot of the stuff that we do is putting players in uncomfortable areas to shoot pucks and then get after it in regards to scramble plays. So a lot of stuff that we do are, if we use a shooter tutor. So what I'll do is you have to hurry up to get into, an example would be like an F3 spot, right? Like
Sure.
you want to be the goal scorer. So there's going to be a wall battle in the corner, and then we're going to spin out, and then we're going to work with the wall work, and then he's got a spot where the F3 is, but I'm not sending the F3 until late into a drill, so that he's got to hurry up and get there. He's not going to have a lot of time. And then we're going to load and shoot. And then we're going to create a scramble in front of the net. And you have to create elevation. You're going to have to create a left to right movement. You're going to have to find a way for second chances. So I find that that's the biggest key for us is, and it's a game-like situation. We might have a D-man, with, token pressure in front of the net. So a lot of the stuff that we do is you don't have a lot of time in the game. A lot of the stuff that we do is rushed. So I try to replicate that and put players into positions where they're going to have to make rush decisions. Now, we do a lot of stuff, throughout the week that, work on their skill sets when there's no rushing, and they have a little bit more time. But a lot of the stuff that we do is not giving you a lot of time to do it, making you have to rush and then react very quickly again and make another play after that. So it's trying to get things done twice in the same rep. So it's not just find a spot, shoot it, and finish it. No, there's going to be, you probably won't score from there, but if you can find that puck and you're really good right outside the blue paint, and you can find a way to get a rebound in when the goalie's down, or there's chaos, or the D-man's looking for the puck and he's not worried about grabbing your stick, then that's where we can kind of maybe take advantage of it. And for you as a player, if you can get 3, 4, 5 goals in the year just doing that, you just went from, a 15 goal scorer to a 20. That's massive for the next level.
For sure. So if I'm going to repeat back what I think you just said is that, create a sense of urgency. But B, I think so many times in practice, there's this shot on net, and then there's a lot of token effort, not a lot of real game-like effort, but to create an environment where the drill doesn't end on the shot. The players keep competing as they would in a game for the puck. And you also talk about trying to move it east-west in those. And again, I think that's probably part of the game, those loose puck battles where, a lot of the feedback from a coach might just be to, harder, dig. There's not a lot of strategy involved, but is that something where there's, maybe coaches can lean in a little bit more and sort of find some strategy or provide some direction to create a sense of when so a player might say, gosh, you know what? Tommy he might just slide it to the back door. I'm going to go stand there.
Yeah, without a doubt, absolutely, right. Like the East-West stuff is crucial. To try to teach that, and I don't think it's natural for kids to make those plays. The high end kids can see it. I think that comes naturally, but I think there is some coachability to it in regards to creating those scenarios under pressure to be able to make that puck go east-west, right? And the thing is for us it's a chaotic situation that I'm asking you to kind of calm down for a second, right? Like you're gonna shoot it, it's chaotic, you're going to grab it, but then you're going to have to calm yourself and make the right play. And now am I pulling it back 2 feet to create elevation? Is the goalie not there? And it's just I'm making a quick decision. The net's open, I'm shooting it in. So, we try to put a few different scenarios in regards to, recognizing and decision-making, within those areas, so that they have to rush. They know they got to get out of that F3 spot to get to the net, but then they also have to be able to say, okay, now I have it. I'm not just banging this into the goalie. Yeah. Now I have to make another play. So now, how do you go from you were standing still, I rushed you to a spot. How do you calm yourself to get the shot? Now I'm rushing you to the net again. And now how do you calm yourself down again to make sure that you're making a decision to go backdoor, slide it backdoor to someone who's standing there? Or am I pulling it back 2 feet to get elevation? Or is it a rush play? The goalie's, lost his stick and he's not even looking. I'm going to bang this in the empty net. So trying to put these players into different situations where they have to make some decisions, and then, heart rate up, heart rate down, right? Quick decisions, calm yourself, right? Think about it for a split second. So if you can put them into more scenarios like that,
awesome.
So when game time comes, then, you hope you've had enough reps that you can have some success with it.
So I want to ask you about another part of the game, but start with a story. So my first year coaching junior hockey, I'm in the BCHL in Quesnel, who no longer has a team. But again, this is back in the 2000-2001 season. This is pre-Twitter. So if you wanted to watch highlights, you had to watch TSN Sports Desk. And TSN would be on a 30-minute loop. So you'd watch all the highlights. And I would say, if you're on the road, you go back to the hotel, probably bring a pizza up to the room. I don't think we did any video back then, but you'd watch the highlights as a staff. And so we're watching the highlights. I don't know where we were, but we're in a hotel room and they play the highlights, and they show a game between Chicago and I forget who you're playing.
Colorado.
That's right. It was Colorado. It was Patrick Waugh was in net. And you get clipped under the nose, you're bleeding. And as you go to the bench, and people, I'm sure, as I'm explaining this, that it's coming to life. There's a fan by the bench, and you're in the United Center in Chicago, in Colorado, and they just start banging on the glass, and they're giving it to you. And I think you kind of give it back a little bit. And if I recall correctly, later in the game, you go on and get 2 shorthanded goals, I think on the same PK. Is that right?
Yeah, it is.
But Patrick Waugh clears the puck, hits this guy, splits him open. He's bleeding, and you go out of your way. I think you go out of your way to go back and see him. And I don't know if his wife, his girlfriend, she's got like a towel on his head. He's bleeding, and she's kind of smiling at you. I bet you we stayed up an extra 3 hours because you could only see it on every 30-minute loop. And we were just like giggling. It was so funny. What do you remember from that night?
Yeah, I remember it all. You know what I mean? Like Alex Tanguay kind of, tried to clear the puck. We were on the power play and he tried to clear it and caught me on the bridge of the nose, and I was bleeding pretty good. And, skating, trainer came me out and I was kind of bent over so I wouldn't get any blood on my jersey and pulling off. And then, a fan kind of heckled me through the glass. And, I just stood up and looked at him like, buddy, I'm bleeding. Like, give me a break. Right. Yeah. So, and then, you're right. And then later on in the game, Patty Roy fires it around and where he was sitting, like the chances of getting hit by a puck
Oh
are,
yeah, like right at the
there's
corner of the bench. Yeah,
yeah, like so close to our bench, right on the first row. Like there's no way a puck's just going to climb
hockey
and
god.
hit you there. And yeah, sure enough, it split him like worse than I. And he was bleeding worse than I was. And our trainer threw a towel over. But as it was happening, I was on the ice, and I was peeling off to go back. Back towards our net, and it was Tony Amonte that yelled at me and said, "Sully, same guy." So then I button hooked it and went right back to him.
Oh,
And,
it's
and repeated the words that he had told me. So I think his girlfriend thought it was pretty funny too. So yeah, and you're right, because we ended up going to Vancouver the next day, and it blew up. Like it was like we walked in like Chicago. First of all, we were a terrible team at the time, and almost out of the playoffs by then. No one really cared about us, and all of a sudden we get to the rink, and there's this Canadian media. First of all, is
for sure.
Is always a lot thicker than the rest of the world, and then all of a sudden I'm like what's going on? So like, and I had to repeat the story, but for them to, I give Colorado's camera and TV production crew props for catching it all on tape. Like, right, it's crazy for it to happen, but for them to see it, have it on film, and recognize it, it's phenomenal. So probably the thing that I'm probably most recognized or remembered for in my whole career is that one clip.
It's so good. But back to the tactical part. I want to go back. You get the 2 shorthanded goals we're seeing in these playoffs. I'm not suggesting that the penalty kill is any more valuable this year than it has been in previous years. But it just seems like it's more often than not, it's the difference in games. And you see, like Edmonton, it's really propelled their season. Florida, it's been a staple of their game. They've been able to shut down Kucherov and Pasternak and some big time players and keep them off the board. What are the ingredients of being a good penalty killer? Because you obviously, it was an area you really excelled at.
Yeah. I think it's first of all, it's recognizing what the power play is trying to do, right? So understanding, what they're trying to do, what their triggers are, what their setup is, and then that's going to help you kind of stop it. But it's also going to be able to help you anticipate when it's going to be a good time to go, right? So anytime you score shorthanded goals, it's a little bit of anticipation, a little bit of of cheating in regards to like, no, I can leave here. And cheating or anticipating is, you can cut it both ways. So I think that understanding, if I'm the weak side forward, and you see the pattern developing, and it's going over to Bouchard and he's going to pound it, right? And understanding where he is on the ice and where he's probably going to try to shoot it, and if he's on, if he misses the net, and and he's going to miss it on our blocker side, and that puck's going to hit the wall, and I'm the weak side winger, I can anticipate I'm coming back to try to take away that lane, so in case he doesn't shoot it. But if he does, I'm getting ready to take off, because if he misses the net and that thing hits the yellow or hits glass and it bounces, it's getting by their flank. And if it gets by their flank, I'm off to the races, right? So you're anticipating that puck in regards to where it's going to go. And then you got to read in regards to where they're standing on the ice. And if you can kind of cheat a little bit in regards to like, yeah, I can, and understanding where you can cheat. There's certain spots on the ice where, prime example, we don't, power plays are, very different than they were when I played.
Yeah.
And then especially when I was in Chicago, we were way more into a box. We were in the power plays were more of an overload, right? So you still had 2 defensemen, a half wall guy, goal line guy, net guy, right? So it wasn't a 1-3-1. But what you could do is like, a lot of times it was to the D to D for a shot. Well, a lot of times I would go out, token block the shot, but I'd always allow myself 1, 2, 3 strides past the D-man, because in case we got it and they fired it, I'm already behind the D-man, right? And I know for a fact that, the odds are, the analytics would, today's day verbiage would be analytics. The analytics would tell me that he's not getting that puck back in the next 2 or 3 seconds. So I'm allowing myself those 2 extra strides, and then I'm going to peek back and see where it's at. And if we don't have it, then I'm just going to button hook and come back, and I'm going to be back in position. No harm, no foul. So a lot of times it's understanding and anticipating where you can kind of cheat on the ice, where it's not going to hurt you for the next couple seconds. So I think that's, and a lot of the PKers, I think I would give Grabner a lot of credit in regards to like that that type of speed on the PK is what, is if you can get a guy that can skate like that, a willingness to block shots and has, the smarts to kill, it makes it very, very hard, keeps the power play on their heels, knowing that a guy, he's just going to come out of a cannon and we've got to chase him down. We're going to be a little bit weary about what we do in the power play.
I think it's interesting you use the word cheating. I know there's been, people point to Edmonton becoming more aggressive. Florida is aggressive in everything that they do, but I guess depending on how you look at it, cheating and being aggressive are kind of one and the same thing, depending on how you want to spin it. Steve, so you've been a player. I know you're recovering from a shoulder injury. Safe to say that those days are well in the rear view now.
Yes.
But you've been a development coach in the NHL. You've been an assistant GM, a general manager. So you've kind of gone through the player evaluation, as well as the player development role. Now you're a coach. I had a chance last night to go back and watch your speech when you received the Bill Masterton Trophy. I didn't realize how long you were out for with your back injury. Like that's probably something that ends a lot of careers. The fact that you not only came back, but then you played for as long as you did. Following that, all this is to say, I don't get the impression that when you leave the rink today that you stop thinking about hockey. I sense this is a deep passion of yours. What's the next chapter of your hockey journey look like, or what would you like it to look like?
Yeah. Thank you for all those things. But you're right. I do have, a true obsession with the game. I truly believe I'm a student of the game. I love to, with so much accessibility to all the games now and different platforms that you can use to download the games and watch the games. I love looking for patterns. I love looking for, where the game is trending towards, just to be able to watch the game, with a different eye. So I truly love that aspect of it. And having gone through, I think every job possible within an organization. I think that this time that when I left the Coyotes, it was to coach my son at the U15 level. And, it was a pandemic year and got back into, I'm like, for sure going to help my youngest son and I'm going to coach him, coached him for 15s and 16s. I got the itch. To coach. I really, really enjoy the coaching aspect of it. I love my time as a manager. I love my time as player development. But what I love about the coaching aspect is you get to touch the players every single day. You get to impact them, if it's in practice or if it's in a game. You get to impact the day-to-day of a player's development. As a manager, you're watching the game from upstairs. You're going to impact, you're looking at what you need to do tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year, 5 years down the road. What does our organization look like? But as a coach, you're diving into today. It's yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's just those 3 days. There's nothing else. And I truly believe that that's the passion that I have, is to kind of, I was lucky enough to have, obviously you named a few, and I've had some unbelievable coaches that were able to pass on some unbelievable knowledge that I was able to retain. I had some great people help me along my way to have a career that I have, and to be able to give back and help, hopefully, 1, 2, 3, or as many kids as I can. I'm really enjoying that aspect. So what does it look like? I don't know, but I don't see hockey not being a part of my life here for the next little while.
Well said. Well, listen, man, we really appreciate you making time to join us today. This has been a lot of fun. And I sincerely mean, I know I'm speaking on behalf of all of our listeners. Thanks so much for just being so candid and sharing so much of the process that you go through with your players and your team and how you build them up. There was a ton of great takeaways, but really look forward to watching you in the Coyotes, Junior Coyotes next season.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.